jurisdiction, I guess is what that goes back
I
to.
don't
Maybe I
disagree
said,
with
maybe
that.
I used the wrong word.
I was just confused in that area.
And it, you know, it
Yeah.
comes down to some basic insidious kind of things that we have in our society. Like, we talk in the school about building a child's self-esteem. And that whole book I read, I can't even remember, was when we were working for the charter school. And all the teachers were, oh, so yeah. No, wait. The child comes. They are valuable as they are. Now, if you're talking about helping a child recognize their self-esteem that's already there, or their value, recognize their value, that's a different thing. But it comes down to who's it, because if you are building a child's self-esteem, that means you can also take it away, or their value is what I would say. But it comes down to the same thing. We shouldn't be having a marriage amendment, or that a marriage is between a man and a woman. We can talk about that in the proclamation to the world. But a religious leader say that's that, but it's not the jurisdiction of the government to say one way or the other.
So when the proclamation says that it's the role of government to defend the family, I don't have the quote, I used to have it all memorized. And actually I have it written down on one of
We
these
call
papers.
upon
Responsible citizens and officers of government everywhere to promote those measures designed to maintain and strengthen the family as the fundamental unit of society. So what you are saying is that the officers of government promoting those measures that maintain and strengthen the family means they protect the family, but not that they define it. They don't tell us to do anything about the family. They just don't let the things that would encroach on the family be a part of it.
I think that is the key right there, that the government is trying to redefine family. There is a definition of family. Look it up in the dictionary, people. It's there. And the reason that there's a definition of family is, and part of the definition of family is, and part of the definition of marriage is to create a family, to have children. That's the reason for marriage. And so they're trying to redefine marriage, which is the problem. There is a definition already, and it's part of a moral law. It's part of a natural law.
I think it's part of the distortion that came along with the word rights. And they create an entitlement and call it a right. For a class of people. And they start grouping people and putting a label on them and say their rights aren't being protected. And so with that distortion, combined with the distortion of the term general welfare, when it became defined as anything the Congress thinks would be in the best interest of the people, they now have the right to legislate about the general welfare. And so when they lost that one, then it became whatever they want to dabble in. They have the precedent established that they can dabble in it. You know, so those two issues, it's on the same level of confusing the difference between a republic and a democracy. You know, to lose sight of what is a real right versus an entitlement kind of thing. And the general welfare, because general welfare should benefit equally every individual, you know, like protect their rights. But when you start granting entitlements that are disproportionate in benefit to one class of people compared to another, you have ceased to promote the general welfare.
Yeah, and they use that general welfare with the eminent domain thing too. How is that? But that goes against our God-given rights of property, right? Life, liberty, and property.
Yeah.
That is so interesting to me. To me, what you just said was one of our principles that we can note down. In fact, I'm going to put it in my notes and put Armstrong by it. That the general welfare is general. That means it applies to everybody. And so the general welfare distortion, what it originally was intended to mean, was the welfare of everybody.
Right.
And so anything that's just helping some at the expense of others is not the general welfare.
Oliver DeMille said that that was lost in the United States versus Butler case in 1936. And the way the court upheld it, opened the door for Congress to define general welfare as whatever they, by their processes, would vote on and approve, you know, and have the president sign. Before that, general welfare was understood to be more restrictive or had to apply generally to everybody. So in that book, 1913, you'll see a description of the Butler case that opened the Pandora's box almost, you know.
That's interesting because when you think of general welfare today, it usually means the welfare of the government. You know, when they're taking property for the general welfare of the whole community because they can use that property to build a mall and create sales tax for everyone, but it's not for everyone, it's for the government. That is so interesting. General welfare and rights versus entitlement.
Yes.
Thank you, that's great. Great thoughts.
Is there anything else anyone's dying to say, or should we let Kate have her turn?
I wanted to say just one thing about this 21st principle about the local self-government, because I was really pondering the question, okay, what do we do about this? And we take a look at the smallest form of government, because I really do think that that is where the changes can be made and where we can really have the most influence. And the smallest form of government is self.
Huh.
That's the smallest form of government.
That is.
Because we have our arguments with ourselves, and we are trying to define what principles we're wanting to live by, and we're trying to align ourselves with those principles because we know what makes it a principle is that, and what makes it true is that the promised results are realized. You know, the promises are realized. They are the actual results in our own lives and in our own souls, right?
Yeah.
So that's the number one thing. If we are going to the smallest form of government, we govern ourselves. Then the second one is with our mate, then our family, our local community, our city, our state, the nation, and the world. But it has to start with governing ourselves. Now that's why this class has been so exciting to me, because it's so fun to say, aha, that's the principle I want to go by. That's the principle that we want to that's the one. Okay, so how do we apply it? And then you go from there. That you make your form from the principle. Right? I'm so excited about that.
That, to me, is a perfect tie into our first big question we were discussing of personal and societal principles being in harmony. Every single principle we discuss in this class, and we've talked about that in many meetings before,
Yes.
how it applies in our families and our homes, but you're even going smaller than family to ourselves. And so all of these principles apply to the nation and to us personally, individually. And that's, I love what you said, that's where we're going to make the biggest change and impact.
Yeah.
And if we're all self-governing ourselves, that's going to help everybody. That's going to help all of society.
Teach correct principles and they
Govern
govern themselves. We're right back to
Yeah, we're right back there.
Always.
Yes,
Always,
yes,
always.
yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
How just changing the wording and saying that a different way, it hits me completely different. And then I go, oh yeah, the prophet said that.
Okay, so you want to do China?
Anyone else have any other wrap-ups? Mom, let me just give a preview for next time.
Okay.